We're down in the tunnel with referee Mr. David Bishop and the two captains for the toss, gentlemen.
Okay, we'll take the side. We'll left and right.
And we can go from the mic. Sure.
Good luck, mate. Good luck, guys.
7 minutes, guys.
You go that way.
7 minutes, guys. 7 minutes.
Mr. David Bishop, referee, can you just tell us exactly who won the toss and what they've decided to do?
South Africa won the toss. South Africa will be playing from that end of the stadium, the south end, I presume that's the south end, south to north, and Australia will kick off.
Tremendous. Have a good game.
We're going to enjoy ourselves.
Thanks very much indeed.
Cheers.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to Newlands. There you heard John Robbie chatting to the referee David Bishop, looking very relaxed this afternoon, and Nas Puerto winning the toss and deciding that South Africa will play from right to left. And certainly a swirling wind here at Newlands this afternoon. Not the best of weather. We've had a lot of rain. In fact, we had a hailstorm, a short, sharp hailstorm about half an hour ago. And despite all that, the stadium is full. The capacity crowd, you can see some of them there. 42,500 people here at Newlands this afternoon to see this test match between South Africa and Australia. The fifth time that these two sides have contested a test here at Newlands, as we watch the sponsors ladies, the Lion ladies, running out onto the field. And the four test matches that have been played, the spoils have been shared, 2 wins apiece. And Australia, on their short tour, the fourth match of the tour, fourth and last match, they come down to Newlands having won all 3 games they've played on the tour. They beat Western Transvaal in Potchefstroom in the first game by 46 points to 13. Then took on Northern Transvaal and won that game 24 points to 17, but didn't look that impressive, and they had pretty much the test combination against Northern Transvaal. And then against Eastern Province on Tuesday, they won that game by 34 points to 8. So unbeaten, and no doubt they'd like to retain that record when they take on South Africa. The match due to start in about 10 minutes or so. South Africa, they played that international against New Zealand at Ellis Park last Saturday and went down by 27 points to 24, and 8 new caps last Saturday. And no doubt they'll have a bit more experience and feel a little bit more settled when they come out onto the field this afternoon. Somewhat muddy, and certainly in patches, very muddy indeed. Looking at the teams, Theo van Rensburg at fullback for South Africa. His second test, a good defender, he likes coming into the line. Peter Hendricks, he's got the right pedigree, coming from Craven Week and then SA Schools. Peter Miller, former Free State player, now playing for Natal. He scored a try last Saturday on his debut for South Africa. Dani Gerber with 20 tests behind the back, 17 tries. Certainly one of the most experienced chaps in the South African back line. James Small, his second test. He went off the field towards the end of last Saturday, replaced by Heinrich Fultz. Last Puerto, the captain, his 25th test, and he's been captain 6 times. And 278 points that he's scored. Robert Dupree, somewhat big for a scrum half. Johan Steger came onto the field last week, but this is his first full game for South Africa, replacing Heinrich Rogers last week. Uli Schmidt, Dr. Uli Schmidt, his 7th test, and he's the most experienced chap in the front row. Lurt Miller, one of the 4 Natal players in the team, and he's certainly a tough opponent at all times. Val Bartman, former Transvaal player, now down with Natal, and he's got 5 tests. Audrey Geldenhuis is the second test and the only Eastern Province player in the side. Ian MacDonald, the breakaway flanker in the South African side, the fast man. Jannie Breert at number 8, very useful on cover defence and also useful at the back of the line-outs. Looking down the Australia lineup, Marty Roebuck, 14 tests behind his back, and he scored a try on his debut. Dave Campese also scored a try on his debut, and in fact he's now scored 49 test tries. Tim Horan, he's 22 years old, 22 tests, and he scored 11 tries in those 22 tests. Jason Little played with Tim Horan since under 12 days, and he's got 3 tries in the tests that he's played. Paul Carozza, the shortest man in the side, and he played for Australia before he even played for his state, and so far he's played 10 tests. Michael Liner, well, he's got 58 tests, and 46 of those he's played with that man there, Nick Farr-Jones, the Australian captain, who's captaining Australia for the 36th time. Tony Daly had the distinction of scoring the only try in the World Cup final against England at Twickenham last season. Phil Kearns, very mobile for his weight, and he scored 6 tries in the 25 tests that he's played. Ewan McKenzie, born and raised in Victoria, but then moved on to Sydney to further his rugby career. Uliafa Hengawi, well, I think that very good performance against Eastern Province in the second half secured his place today. Rod McCall, he toured South Africa with the World 15. John Eales, just 22 years old, but already 15 tests, and that's a lot for such a young lot. David Wilson, the breakaway, the fast man again. He made his debut against Scotland earlier this year. Tim Gavin, the number 8, he played against Western Transvaal and scored 2 tries and then was rested, and he'll be number 8 this afternoon for the Australian side. And they're one of the more colourful flags, and a colourful crowd. The sun just trying to peek through the clouds at the moment, and one hopes that the rain will stay away, and the pitch looking a little bit slippery in places.
Has it, Simon? I can tell you it's a hell of a climb from down in this dressing room to get up here perched where we are. Yeah, the pitch certainly is wet. I had a chat to some of the Wallaby coaches beforehand, and I overheard somebody asking Jake Howard, who's one of the Wallaby coaching staff, I suppose it's a question of keeping your side going forward today, and he just said, isn't it always? He was also, this was a real overhearing a conversation, just sort of sidling up to them. And they said they reckon that the weather suits the Wallabies. Although they play in a very dry climate as well, they're used to playing against New Zealand over in places like Auckland. They're experienced in these conditions in very, very tense situations. But I can tell you, Simon, down in the dressing room area, I don't think I've ever experienced the a situation so tense. The players are walking past. Guys you've met before are saying nothing on both sides. They're very, very tense indeed. I had a chat to Peter Muller, a couple of the other guys, but they're talking in monosyllables. This is the big one, and just how the teams adapt to these conditions, well, I think that's going to be the key to the game.
And there come the visitors, the Australian side, making their way slowly. Tony Daly coming out there, slowly out of the dressing room, and in a moment or so they'll come onto the field under that banner of Lion Lager, with the ladies still performing out there on the field. And a quick look down the South African side again, that relatively inexperienced backline. Donnie Gerber, of course, the experienced man in the centre there, and Nice Buerta, the most experienced man in the side, captaining the side at fly half, and Robert Dupree, man who gives his all. And the forwards for South Africa, Jan Staker, the man who came onto the field in place of Heinrich Rogers last Saturday. And there comes the South African side, James Small, and behind him Theo van Rensburg. As we look at the Australian side quickly before play gets underway, Dave Campese, the genius, the unpredictable man, 49 test tries. And Michael Liner and Nick Boyle-Jones, well, they know each other so well, they've played together so often, and that certainly is going to make a big difference. There's mobile locks, Rod McCall and John Eales, and that powerful front row for the Australians.
Of course, one of the things that might favour South Africa is, with the very heavy conditions, perhaps the speed of David Wilson might be neutralised. Conditions like this tend to drag the game down, players become one-paced, and that could be a factor. But really look out for the halfbacks. In conditions like this, the halfbacks are vital. They've got to nurse their side forward, nurse their forwards, and that really could be the key issue. But the first 5 minutes are going to be gripping. And I think the rain is just starting. A couple of drops of rain coming from the right-hand side.
So Australia to kick off. South Africa playing from our right to our left. And 43-year-old Dave Bishop officiating in his 18th test.
And just down in front of us, you can't see it in the picture, that David Campese throwing some grass and looking very, very puzzled. A couple of handfuls of grass he threw up seemed to blow different ways each time. And that's an indication that the wind is certainly swirling.
No doubt about that, and it's been changing throughout the day, blowing north here in Cape Town earlier on, then it switched to the west, a little bit of a southeaster before we came on air, and Marty Roebuck with the ball, no doubt waiting, or the referee waiting rather, for an indication that time is ready.
And Marty Roebuck there, a little bit of confusion about the sand, calling for sand, and finally a ball boy, enterprising ball boy from the far side has brought it out. And we've seen Roebuck, although he doesn't do the place kicking in the test side, we've seen him kicking off before. And just look at that as a man. He wants to get underneath this and hang it up in the air as a target for the big forwards.
And there's David Campese. He always wears the number 11 jersey, although he plays on the right wing. Now the referee just asking South Africa whether they're ready. And as he blows the whistle, so the ball falls over. And the wind strengthens just a little bit. And this time nothing wrong with the ball as Marty Roebuck starts the game. John Eales there, picking it up for Australia. Good drive by the Australian forwards. They'll be looking for the ball now. Farr Jones has it. Michael Lynagh with the high testing kick for Theo van Rensburg. Not going to get to Theo van Rensburg though. A bit of aerial ping pong and then picked up and play by Australia. So Australia kicking off, winning the ball from the kick-off, and that high kick, and no doubt we're going to see lots of those this afternoon because the ball, as play progresses, is going to become more and more slippery. As Farr Jones feeds, Gavin picks up to Farr Jones, looking for support. Jason Little, Tim Horan rather, there with him. And that's the try line, South African try line, you can see in the back of the screen.
That's a penalty to South Africa. Wasn't that a super tackle by Peter Muller? Gavin putting Nick Farr Jones away. Muller came in from centre, took ball and man, saved a very dangerous situation, but a super start by the Australians.
And so now Botha with the attempt to relieve pressure, keeping it low. That gives you some indication of the wind and not finding touch. And Farr Jones hoists the high one again, coming down inside the 22. Well taken by McDonald. And South Africa retaining possession and driving a bit. And now Robert du Preez slipping as he kicks. And chased by Carozza. He runs into a bit of a problem there. Booted down the field, picked up by Campese. He kicks for the grandstand touchdown, but he's going to find Peter Hendricks. Theo van Rensburg rather. Van Rensburg with a kick ahead, a good rolling kick. So Theo van Rensburg positioned well for that kick from Dave Campese and taking play up to the Australian 22.
And once again, Peter Muller making that first time tackle after the breakthrough. But Theo van Rensburg, people questioned his defence after his selection, and my goodness, so far in a Springbok jersey, in a South African jersey, he's done brilliantly.
Well, the crowd now coming alive as South Africa gets into and well into the Australian half. Bill Kearns throwing to the front, tapped down. Nick Farr Jones gets it back to his fly half. He's challenged by Uli Schmidt, but Michael Lynagh gets the kick in.
A good refereeing by David Bishop. Audrey Geldenay spoiling at the front, knocked the ball forward, and Bishop waited to see how far Lynagh would clear before bringing them back to the scrum. And that first Australian scrum looked so rock solid. He adjudged this is a better advantage. Good refereeing.
Once again, Farr Jones able to get it away to Michael Lynagh, and good low kick from Michael Lynagh as he's challenged by Nars Botha, finding touch and taking play up to the Australian 10-metre line.
The South Africans calling for a short line out. Jannie Breert coming forward, giving the signal.
Jannie Breert palming it down. Referee waiting for advantage. No advantage.
And that's a crooked throw by Uli Schmidt. But after being caned in the lineouts by the All Blacks last week, interesting to see if South Africa persist with those short lineouts. Again, inviting short side for Farr Jones, perhaps to kick.
And using it to Dave Campese. Little chip over the top from the chase by Campese. And once again, good positioning from Theo van Rensburg and running the ball into touch. But Campese showing just how dangerous he is, and Farr Jones opting to go on the blind side, but well read by Theo van Rensburg. And Dave Bishop's making sure that those two lineouts maintain the 1 metre apart. As Tony Daly gathers the ball and goes around the front. Farr Jones gets it back to Rod McCall. A penalty to Australia. No doubt Michael Lynagh is going to see whether he can put points on the board.
And South Africa penalised there for bringing down that rolling maul. But the Australians once again using the tactic we saw the All Blacks use so well. Big men standing off, taking the pass from scrum half, driving and committing. And of course what they're trying to do in part is bring in the tacklers to allow a big man then to run at Naas Botha. We saw Michael Jones doing it very, very well for the All Blacks. And obviously the Australians taking a leaf out of their book.
Stuart Miller watching the proceedings. And that's a good shot of the angle that Michael Lynagh has to contend with. And I suppose he's about, well, he's on the 15-metre line, so that gives you some idea. And certainly he's almost like a metronome when he kicks. Lynagh seeing whether he can put points on the board, and it's going to just drift past the left. And Naas Botha thinking of opening up and running and then deciding against it, but maybe he's going to take the quick drop out, which he does. Peter Miller there in the thick of things. And Gavin gets the ball back to Nick Farr-Jones. Michael Lynagh with the high one is going to come down outside. In fact, been blown back a little bit, picked up by Hendricks. Van Rensburg runs into a bit of trouble. That's a South African 22-metre line as Robert Dupree gets it back to Naas Botha, and he slips as he kicks and is picked up by Tim Horan. Naas Botha defending. Nick Farr-Jones gets it back to Willie O. He's a strong man, but he's dumped. Rod McCall is in the thick of things there for Australia. Farr-Jones gets it back, but the whistle has gone.
Well, that was gripping stuff. Naas Botha slipping as he kicked. You'll see it here. Watch him lose his foot. There he goes. Horan reacted quickly. And what a great recovery by Botha.
So Australia very much on the attack, but South Africa have the put in when the scrum eventually settles down. Robert Dupree will get it back. Once again, Naas Botha forced to kick with the left boot, and this time retaining his footing, not slipping. But that gives you an idea that in certain places, certainly here at Newlands, very slippery underfoot. And Australia very much on the attack still.
And what a super tackle by Robert Dupree on a charging Willie Offa-Hengawi. That certainly saved a try. And nice to see Robert making a confident start after his uncharacteristic slips last week.
It's a five-man line out this time. To the back and tap to Farr-Jones, to Michael Lynagh. Horan, the long pass out to Jason Little. Picked up by Dave Williams as Val Bartman goes in. And another penalty to Australia for South Africa going over the top, and there's the culprit getting up. It's a pat on the back from referee Dave Bishop to Val Bartman.
And Bartman coming in from the wrong side and getting driven over the ball. And Willie Offa-Hengawi has taken a knock. And I wonder, is this as a result of that very hard tackle from Robert Dupree a couple of minutes ago? He's a very hard man indeed. And of course, the interesting thing is that on the bench, Andrew Blades, prop forward, Tom Lawton, hooker, and Big Garrick Morgan, who is, of course, a lock forward. But it looks like Willie Offa-Hengawi is all right. Gingerly gets to his feet.
So Lynagh from the 22, and certainly an easier kick this one compared to the one he took about 4 minutes ago. Lynagh with the right boot, and this time he makes no mistake. So Australia put first points on the board after 9 minutes or so in the first half. Michael Lynagh succeeding with the penalty, and Australia lead by 3 points to 0.
And that's a good kick by Lynagh, really, with conditions so soft. No such thing as an easy kick. And you'll watch for the short ones, the kickers just relax and try and kick it as smoothly as they possibly can. But a good start by the Australians, and important that they've translated that into points.
Last Botha with the dropout. John Eales can't take it, while Jones picks it up, protected by his forwards. Dave Wilson taking scrum. Still Kearns goes in. Wilson has it, back to line now, inside his 22, and with the right boot, over the head of Peter Hendricks. He gets it back to Theo van Rensburg inside his 22. He's challenged by Horan coming through very quickly. He does very well to get his kick in and get a very good touch.
Yeah, he's a little bit fortunate there. The ball bounced into touch, but he got away with it, and that's the important thing. But once again, Peter Hendricks handling the high ball well. Hardly had anything to do in the test match against the All Blacks. And he's had a couple of nice touches already.
This time the full line out. Rod McCall going up for it. Penalty to South Africa.
And the Australians penalised for lifting there. And I'm sure Botha will have a go for poles. And that's a kick of about 40 metres, but once again, there's no such thing as an easy kick. From that shot, I think it really gives an impression of how brown and muddy this field is. And already we've seen Naas Botha slipping twice.
And I'm sure that'll be in the back of his mind as he goes up to take this kick in a moment or so after the ball has been replaced. And the wind now playing quite strongly behind the backs of the South Africans.
And of course, as this kick gets up, the wind will take it even more as it gets up towards the top of the grandstands.
It's a low one. It doesn't have the legs. Campese takes it behind. Decides to dot down. Marty Roebuck with the dropout. And the ball being blown back towards the Australian line. And that's the New Zealand touch charge on the far side of the field. Lindsay McLaughlin. Henry Geldes gets back to Robert Dupree to Naas Botha. Peter Muller still on his feet. Now he's down. Al Bartman gets it back to Robert Dupree going on the blind side. Dani Gerber after Uli Schmidt, who's hanging on the wide side. Uli Schmidt still on his feet, being powered forward by the South Africans and into touch.
Well, that has certainly got the crowd on its feet. Super play by the Springboks. Ball won by Geldenhuys. A marvellous diving pass by Robert Dupree. The ball retained, and they worked the short side. Dani Gerber taking a late tackle, and just look at Uli Schmidt drop that shoulder and go through Karaza.
Australia with the throw-in. And that's the Burley full Kearns. Tapped down on South Africa's side. Robert Dupree gets the pass out to Naas Botha. Peter Muller.
And forward pass, I think, given there against South Africa. But sound tactics by the Springboks, using the big, strong Muller to punch in the middle and then look to play off the loose ball.
And good play by the forwards, winning that throw-in at the line-out. Was Australian throw-in, and South Africa managing to tap it down.
And also good tidying by Luit Muller. Had Dupree had to come in for that, he would certainly have been collared. Luit Muller enabled him to get that pass away.
Far Jones getting it out now to Michael Liner. And that's a lovely kick from the Australian fly half, taking play up to the Australian 10-metre line.
And it's interesting, in the difficult conditions that the players are playing under, we've seen very, very few individual mistakes. That slip by Botha, but apart from that, the handling, the tactics, the line kicking, everything has been very good indeed. Two excellent sides.
And that one slapped down more than tapped down. Robert Dupree feeds. Being harassed by Far Jones, but gets his pass to Nas Porter, who hoists the high one. Marty Roebuck coming underneath it. And he takes it well. Donny Gerber dispossesses him. Oh, Bartman driving in there. Ball gets back. Robert Dupree now. The kick for the far side. Being chased by Carrozza. And the ball beating both Carrozza and James Small into touch. And South Africa right on the attack.
And what a centre partnership is building up between Dani Gerber and Peter Muller. Muller applied the hit, Gerber took the ball, and beautiful ball back for South Africa. The Australians under real pressure here.
John Eales, the 22-year-old Australian lock.
And the rain has started to belt down once again. Look at those umbrellas just in the background.
It's Eales going up and controlling it.
And I think you'll find that was Daly running into players in front of him. Accidental offside, so strict refereeing in the lineouts by referee Bishop.
And the best attacking position for South Africa this afternoon. Jannie Breed holding it, and South Africa trying to make a yard or two.
And just look to the right, Nas Porter, you could see them marshalling his troops. And I wonder if we see big Peter Muller come in and have a crack at the line.
Another solid scrum. Jannie Breed picks it up to Val Bartman. He loses it. Robert Dupree can't control it. Nas Porter gets it out to James Small on the right. And South Africa have lost precious metres. And so South Africa had the ball, and so Australia will have the put in.
And that goes down as a mistake by South Africa. A scrum that close to the line, mishandling, and it's ended up with the initiative given to Australia.
And good solid defence as well from the Australians as Far Jones feeds. Tim Gavin releases the ball to Far Jones to Liner from his line. And once again under a lot of pressure, and once again a good relieving kick from Michael Liner.
Well, the atmosphere here is absolutely amazing. It's electric down there. And as so often in games played in muddy conditions, it sometimes ends up as a classic.
And Dr. Uli Schmidt. And Robert Dupree can't get the pass away.
Just look at David Bishop. He is loving this game. All smiles beforehand under the stand, and you can see him smiling as he makes those decisions. The rain is belting down. I think there's even a touch of hail in it now.
And so the scrum will be taken again, and the conditions getting worse all the while as Far Jones gets it back to Liner. Liner kicks for the grandstand touchline. Here from Rensburg, underneath it, the little kick through, being chased by Peter Muller, and a little slipping and sliding going on there as Tim Horan runs it into touch. A penalty awarded to South Africa.
Well, couldn't pick up what that was for. Rare mistake by Liner against superpositional play by Van Rensburg. And there you are, late tackle coming in. I think that might have been Jason Little. And so another chance for Nas Botha. Now remember, Botha will be a bit concerned. Tremendous pressure by South Africa has not been translated into points. So important for a side when it puts the pressure on to turn it into points, as the Australians did.
Nas Botha now kicking into the wind, which has yet again changed direction. And it's going to just drift past the right upright. So near, but yet so far.
Well, that's an extraordinary kick, and you picked it up, Simon. A kicker like Botha brings the ball in slightly from the right. He hit it perfectly at that far post, and in fact the ball went away. The wind took it late in its passage and took it away. Still 3-0 the Australians lead. 21 minutes to go in this first half.
And the rain streaming into the commentary box as well as we watch the drop out to the far side of the field, but straight into touch.
And that's another mistake by Liner. South Africa, marvellous attacking position, and of course they now have two large sides on which to work. They predictably split their back line with Theo van Rensburg hovering towards us on this side.
Robert Dupree out to Nas Botha, thinks of a drop and decides against it, kicks to the railway stand side. Paul Carossa slips in taking the ball, challenged by James Small, pushed into touch, and Nas Botha puts South Africa right back onto the attack.
Oh, what a lovely kick, and also great following up by the South Africans. Small there makes no mistake with the tackle.
And midway through the first half, Australia 3 points to the good. And Australia making ground here on the South Africans throw in and winning the ball. Far Jones back to Liner. It's a high kick, he's not going to find his touch. Nas Botha's in position, James Small is there to support. Good tackle by Horan, and Small should probably have passed that out. He had support on the outside, but now booted through, and eventually back to Marty Roebuck with the left boot. And a mix-up between the South Africans, and a lucky bounce for Jannie Breuk. Gets it to Dani Gerber. He kicks the high one. Michael Liner is there to watch it and dot it down.
The Australian standard of kicking is slipping here. And Liner settling things down. Interesting decision by James Small. Nice to see him having a go, although perhaps put his side at risk, taking on Tim Horan way behind the rest of his team. Had a go and it didn't quite work.
So Marty Roebuck, and this time he'll try and ensure it doesn't go straight into touch, but it doesn't go over the 22. And Phil Kearns breaking away, waiting for the whistle. And so the last dropout went straight into touch, and the Springboks had the scrum, and this time it didn't go over the 22, and so South Africa has the scrum again.
And away to the right, Dani Gerber speaking to Nas Botha, asking him to call a move. No doubt that will involve Dani. And there on the right of the screen, you can see the South African backs talking. Dani Gerber this side, Theo van Rensburg also hovering this side.
Robert Dupree back to Nas, once again checking. And the high kick being chased by Peter Hendricks, underneath it Campese and Marty Roebuck. Roebuck comes away with it and has all the time in the world to run up towards the 22 and kick, but straight into the safe hands of Nas Botha. He's over the halfway line and he's got Theo van Rensburg in support. Val Bartman is there to carry on the movement, but he's pushed into touch, and so they kick from Marty Roebuck, eventually gaining a fair amount of ground for Australia.
Well, certainly South Africa trying to mix the kicks with the running, although perhaps the side not working hard enough to get behind the ball. Poor Val Bartman left with a, well, impossible task. Him against the whole Australian pack, and slid into touch.
O'Neill's going up well for that one.
Hold your feet, mate. Hold your feet, Phil. Keep it going forward. Keep it on you. Stay in there, mate. Tight. Stay in tight. Stay in tight. Through the guts, mate.
Nick Far Jones marshalling his forces.
Feel up, John.
Australia still driving on.
Keep it going, Tony. Head down.
Now he wants it and he gets it. He gets it back to Liner. On outside he is 22. Underneath it is Peter Hendricks. Gets it outside he is 22. Gets it back to Theo van Rensburg. And van Rensburg with the right foot finds touch just inside Australian territory.
And that's excellent play by the Australians. And just have a look at Tony Daly, number one, the loose head prop. He's the man who does a lot of tidying up in the line-outs. That loose ball tapped down by Eales and McCall. There he is. And he's done tremendous work in tidying and setting up those drives.
To Eales, and the referee waiting to see whether there'll be any advantage. Not straight into the line-out. And so South Africa will have the scrum in one of the more muddier patches of the field. Dupree being protected by Jannie Breuk and getting the kick over the top. Campese coming back for it. Takes it outside the 22 and it'll chip over the top. Fallen on by James Small. Picked up by Tim Gavin. Helped by Dave Wilson. While Jones gets it back. Out it comes to Marty Roebuck. He can't control it. This could be dangerous, and Roebuck, almost like a soccer player, slides into that one and kicks it into touch.
Well, wasn't that copybook driving by Gavin? Body position, low and hard, posted the ball and set it up. And the Australians looking quite dangerous here. That poor pass, and Roebuck having to scurry it into touch.
Willie Schmidt with the throwing, tapped down on the Australian side by Jones. Liner can't take it, Horan can, and we could have had tackle against Nice Porter.
And here's Tim Horan, perhaps, well, certainly a high tackle, and I think Nice pulled out of it, but the ref quite rightly penalising.
And the penalty taken very quickly, and a very good kick finding touch just a few metres from the South African line.
And points here for Australia really would be a body blow. Think of the South African pressure, they've nothing to show for it. If the Australians bounce straight back and score, well, that'll take some recovering from.
Johan Steger at the front of the line out for South Africa. Behind him, Andri Geldenhuys. And Phil Kearns going in there. Just a metre or so from the South African line. Robert de Vrij decides to do the kicking himself. It's almost straight up in the air and just goes over the touchline. So Australia will have the throw-in again at this line-out, and still they remain very, very much on the attack. Quick throw in for Jones, but the whistle is gone.
Not 5 metres, I think. And a free kick given to South Africa. And a chance for Nice Porter to relieve the pressure.
Nice taking it quickly. Campese with a quick throw in to Marty Roebuck. And Roebuck hoists the high one. Nice Porter calls for and is awarded the mark. Porter with the left boot, making no mistake.
And what an indication of how two-footed Nice Porter is. A choice to kick with either foot. He tapped it to himself and kicked a very long touch with his left foot. And one really battles to think of anybody in the world of rugby who's as good with either foot as Nice Porter.
And a shorter line-out call by Australia. To the back. But he was unable to control it. Now he can take on the drive.
And once again, South Africa penalised for dropping that maul that was dynamic, that was moving forward. South Africa penalised for bringing it down. And bear in mind, South Africa playing with the wind at their backs, at least for most of the time. It is swirling around. And for all their effort, it must be of some concern. 3-0 down and perhaps 6 after this kick.
And South Africa can ill afford to give away penalties like that and make mistakes, particularly right in front of the referee. And this one well within the range of Michael Liner. But he does have this awkward wind to contend with.
Well, and Narchi arriving on the field just missed the ball.
Michael Liner hitting it sweetly, but it goes past the left upright. And that gives you an indication of just how difficult conditions are, because both Nice Porter and Michael Liner are both very, very good kickers. But so far, just the one penalty succeeding, that from Michael Liner when the game was about 9 minutes old. And Australia 3 points to 0 to the good. The dropout is picked up by South Africa. But the whistle is gone.
And ball knocked on in the tap. Nice to see McDonald and Adri Geldenhuys committing themselves so totally.
Johan Steger on this side.
And with a 20-yard short side, possibly back row move or a little kick through for Campese.
Gavin breaking loose. Now far Jones has it to Michael Liner. He hoists the high one. And Australia have it.
That's Jason Little penalised for flipping that ball up while he was held.
Last Botha making sure of his touch and taking South Africa almost up to the halfway line. In the front of the line out, Audrey Geldenhuys gets it back to Robert Dupree. Last Botha has to pick up an awkward pass. And again the high kick for testing one for Marty Roebuck, takes it well enough. While Bartman runs into him. Roebuck, not the biggest of men, but certainly very courageous fullback. Robert Dupree out to his fly half, and again the high kick from Lars Botha. Taken on by James Small. This is certainly a kickable penalty for South Africa.
Well, certainly not the best up and under Lars Botha has ever kicked, but it's worked and given Lars the chance to kick the goal. And just look at the way he's flattening down the mud around the ball. And you can see he's kicking out of a really dreadful patch of mud. And this really is a difficult kick, although it's straight in front of the post, 30 yards out.
This time he's headed sweetly enough, and through the middle it goes, and the crowd tells you the story. South Africa back on level terms after 32 minutes of the first half. 3 points apiece. The penalty for Australia from Michael Liner, and Lars Botha replying for South Africa.
And one just gets the feeling this is not going to be a high-scoring test match. But my goodness, it's gripping. And really one of those matches one feels that might just be decided by one or two vital incidents.
Marty Roebuck with the dropout. Just keeping the two packs apart as the ball comes back onto the field. And Gavin again picking up and feeding his skipper. Runs into a bit of trouble. Willie O is there to help. Out it goes to Liner. Back for it is James Small. He gets the mark awarded as he's challenged by Paul Carrozza.
And that's tremendous defence by James Small. With that back row move being used, he was drawn up flat to his back line, read the kick coming and moved back extremely quickly to take the high mark.
And Small not finding his touch. And Willie Schmidt taking it well.
And another marvellous take, this time by Uli Schmidt, driving forward straight into, I think, Nick Farr-Jones. And rather Nick Farr-Jones than either of us, I think, Simon. A nice thumbs up from Uli.
That's Nick Farr-Jones there, needing a bit of assistance from the Australian team. Uli Schmidt,
goodness.
Boom.
And nice to see Lars Botha over just to have a word with Nick Farr-Jones. Of course, they're very, very good friends and have played together in the past.
And the deep throw in this time. Farr-Jones gets it to Liner. Horan looking for Jason Little and finding him.
And this is very dangerous for South Africa if Australia win this ball.
Farr-Jones. He's in the line side. Farr-Jones again to Liner. Out to Paul Carrozza, and Carrozza goes in for the try. Lovely play for Australia, and Paul Carrozza going over for the first try of the afternoon.
Well, that's a super try by Australia, and made all the better by its simplicity. We didn't see the drive forward by Little, the quick ball back, and just look at the way they worked the overlap in such a short space. And we've seen from the film from New Zealand, when Carrozza gets a chance, well, nothing stops him. A straightening and giving, and just look at the way Liner passed that ball around the man. Desperate defence by Staker and Dupree. But that's a well-worked and well-deserved try by Australia. And what really made it, as I say, was that punch in the middle by Jason Little and the way he got the ball back quickly.
So Michael Liner presented with a rather more difficult kick than he's had to contend with this afternoon, almost from the touchline.
It's a very difficult kick, though, in many ways less pressure on the kicker in these conditions from the touchline. If he gets it, it'll be a bonus.
And the wind has interfered yet again. And so Liner not able to convert that try by Paul Carrozza, but Australia now in the lead. 8 points to 3, they lead South Africa, and just 3 minutes left in the first half.
And as soon as this ball came out, the Australians had men regrouped. There's making the ball available for Carrozza, who crosses in the corner. That's a good try.
Back to the action, and following the dropout by Nars Botha, South Africa has the throw in at the line out. And this time, well taken by Jannie Breed. Back it comes to Robert Dupree, to Nars Botha. This time he spins it to Peter Muller, to Peter Hendricks coming in from the left wing. Out again, Robert Dupree kicking a Marty Roebuck in position, but unable to take it, and booting it, fly hacking it downfield. But the knock-on by Marty Roebuck will see the scrum go down.
And just have a look at Tim Horlin in the middle for the Australians, that time dumping Peter Hendricks, and his tackling has been inspirational. He's not a big man, but my goodness, he goes in low and hard.
So Robert Dupree wants this one back from the scrum. He gets it out to Nars Botha, but too wide. Arnie Gerber has to pick it up in the face of the Australian centre pair coming up and challenging him. And so South Africa losing a lot of ground from that scrum. Even Nars Botha going on the side of the scrum there and then retreating.
Australia shading the lineouts. Of course, that's clean ball one from all lineouts.
Tim Gavin being used again. Far Jones beaten through and then being upended.
I think Jannie Breed late tackling the man there. And we might see Liner hang a high kick here. He's looking at the touchline. No, I think he's going to go for distance.
Keeping it low again and not finding his touch. Theo van Rensburg underneath it and getting the right boot in. And Theo van Rensburg pushing the Australians back, but still they're in South African territory.
So 1 minute to go to half-time. 8 points to 3, Australia ahead. And I suspect very pleased with the way things have panned out.
Certainly a beautiful try scored by Paul Carrozza for Australia. Will Kearns out to the back. Eels taps it down, picked up by Tony Daly. He goes barging into the forwards, and Nick Farr Jones will want it back now. And he gets it back to Phil Kearns. Again, Farr Jones has it. This time John Eels being used as the battering ram, but being pushed back by South Africa. But Australia controlling the ball, well, getting it back again. Farr Jones out to Liner. The long pass out to Little. He slips, can't get the pass back to Liner. And now Donny Gerber intercepting. Getting it back to Nice Porter, to James Small. And Robert Dupree with the kick ahead. Good counter-attack by South Africa, but the ball going straight into touch.
As the half-time whistle has gone. And once again, clear the Australians varying their tactics. Big men standing out one at a time to run at the South African midfield. That time it held, but 8 points to 3 ahead. And one feels that Naas Botha will have a very serious talking to his side at half-time. So from a wet and windy Newlands, we'll be back with you in a minute.
Following the kick out, and Australia pushing back from their 22. And looking for the ball.
And the worrying thing for South Africa during the break, Peter Muller receiving intense treatment for what looked like a groin or leg muscle strain. And Danny Kerb over talking to him, and Heinrich Fulls warming up.
Good shove by Australia, but South Africa winning their ball. Dupree to Nice Porter, to Peter Hendricks, can't control it. Nor can Danny Muller, picked up by Australia in the form of Jason Little. With South Africa knocking on first.
And here is this knock ball again, using Muller for the crash. Just perhaps taking his eye off it, and perhaps South Africa a little bit lucky to escape.
Far Jones again running wide, picked up by Gavin. And Far Jones unable to batter his way through.
Now we've seen that a couple of times. The number 8 Gavin feeding Far Jones, and I think they're trying to run Far Jones at Naas Botha.
South Africa going to use the same tactics. Here's Jannie Breed picking up and feeding it to Val Bartman, but obstruction I think from the referee, and so Australia get the penalty.
And there I think Jannie Breed obstructing in front of Val Bartman, and the penalty given. And Jannie Breed still questioning the referee. General feeling from around the commentary box that the referee is doing a good job, David Bishop. Very clear with his decisions, very strict on dropping loose situations, and also on playing the ball on the ground.
Full Kearns, and Australia unable to take it. South Africa can. Nice Botha with the long kick. Marty Roebuck has to turn and chase. The ball isn't going to quite roll into touch though. Roebuck picks it up, he has to contend with James Small and gets his kick in, but Nice Botha gaining a lot of ground for South Africa, and James Small certainly is dynamic as ever, following up and forcing Marty Roebuck to rush the kick.
And South Africa shortened the line out again. They've shortened to 4 jumpers, and Val Bartman hovering in midfield.
And the ball being thrown to Val Bartman, but he can't get it. It's picked up by Adolf Malone. And Australia coming away with it as referee playing advantage. Back it goes to Liner inside his 22. The long kick from Michael Liner. Underneath is James Small. He can't control it, but he manages to keep it in the field of play. And now he gets it back to his fullback. And Theo van Rensburg can find touch. This time Australia calling for a shorter line out. Danny Daly at the front.
Australia cutting to 5.
Rod McCall standing at number 2. And it's Phil Kearns with a throw-in to John Eales. And Far Jones gets a difficult ball and gets the kick in as he disappears under a few people. And Johan Steiger there.
And I think Val Bartman penalised, playing the ball on the ground. Well, the crowd are booing, but I think that was... and look at Bartman here, in on the ground low, and he flicks it back, playing it.
And Michael Liner going for touch rather than going for posts. And Australia, of course, have the throw-in.
An interesting Liner going for touch there. One felt that perhaps the high bomb, if he wasn't going to post, might have been more profitable. But still, of course, Australia have the throw.
McCall going up, tapping it down to Tony Daly.
You're driving in. No, stay, Bill, stay low. Stay low, Willie. Keep it on, Dave.
And Australia controlling it and driving forward. That's Ian McDonald going in there and getting a bit of raking treatment. And Australia still driving forward. Lovely forward play from the Australians. That's a try line you see in the back of the picture. While Jones gets it out. Now the little chip over the top. It's being chased. And who's going to get there first? Penalty to Australia, offside by South Africa. And South Africa were caught last week with a quick penalty. And this time they're watching the ball.
And I think he's indicated going for post. But what a wonderful rolling maul by the Australians. And there's where the penalty for offside was given, I think, against the whole line. But the Australians walked that ball in a maul 30, 40 metres. And of course, having established that he's not going to tolerate anyone dropping it, well, South Africa certainly caught a little bit there. And we saw Ian McDonald trying to stop it desperately and getting taken out by Tony Daly. But good pressure rugby by Australia, and not committing any errors, not giving away possession. And you can see in the background Peter Muller exercising that thigh, and I think he's in trouble. I think he's pulled a groin muscle or something like that. And of course on the wet ground, that every movement can aggravate it. And Heinrich Fultz has been warmed up down by the bench.
Michael Liner successful with just one kick in the first half. And with the second half now just over 6 minutes old, and he goes and pushes it wide again. Certainly not a day for the kickers this afternoon here at Newlands. So the score remains on 8 points to 3 in favour of Australia. And last quarter bringing the ball up to the 22 for the dropout.
And I don't think Nas is wearing the shoulder pads today, is he? That's interesting. A lot of comment about his shoulder pads being worn against the New Zealanders.
Maybe in wet weather they get a bit heavy, so decided against it today. Robert Dupree gets it back. Lonnie Gerber with Peter Hendricks with the chip over the top. Crunching stuff that. Taken by Campese. He gets the kick in. Falling back for it is Nas Botha and Theo van Rensburg. I think the referee spotted that Van Rensburg might have come just outside the 22, and he's going across to talk to the linesman. And they're coming back for it.
Well, Campese doing some marvellous rescuing here. And well, it seems I can see Theo van Rensburg talking to Nas Botha, and I think Van Rensburg feels he was wrongly penalised. And that's cost South Africa maybe 30 metres.
Referee David Bishop very sharp to have spotted that. In Australia, taken by Jannie Breert on the Australian throw-in. Penalty given to South Africa. Willie O, the offending culprit there. Keeping the punt low, and it's a most peculiar wind. In fact, at half-time we were looking at some of the flags, and certain flags were blown in different directions, so very much a swirling wind. That's the tall John Eales. And for Jones, Liner having to take it going backwards, takes it one-handed, does well, but kicks it straight into touch.
And you can see that time that Tony Daly didn't make the tidying catch. One of the things that's been very evident is Daly doing the tidying from the taps. Not too many people tidying for South Africa.
And two strong silent workers in the Australian front row. Daly and McKenzie get through an awful lot of work. And this time Robert Dupree has it. Long pass. Nas Botha can't take it. Peter Muller can't initially, and then eventually does and puts a kick ahead. Marty Roebuck dropping back for it. Takes it inside his 22, and he's given the mark. James Small clearly didn't think that he had.
Interesting in that line out that Johan Steicher winning the quick ball at the front, and we've seen Free State catch a few Currie Cup sides with that tactic, working well for South Africa.
Graham Small trying to charge down the kick. And a good kick from Marty Roebuck. Gets a little bit of applause from his captain. You can see on the right of your screen.
So 30 minutes to go in the game, 8 points to 3, and at stake for South Africa, well, a win over the world champions.
Tapped out in the front by Geldenhuis. And bad ball for Robert Dupree.
Phil, get a dry one, Phil.
So South Africa not only lose ground, also lose the throw-in.
TRX 31.
Kearns, McCall tapping it down.
And it's a free kick to Australia, and here they come with the drive. Kearns.
Mar Jones getting it back now, taken on by Gavin. Mar Jones again. Liner. Horan with the chip ahead, being chased by Carozza and by Horan. And the chase is on between Horan and Osborne, but the ball will beat them both over the dead ball line. Again, clever play from the Australian inside centre.
And look how simple Australia are playing it. We've seen them punch in the middle. The difference between the South Africans and the Australians is the ball comes back so quickly for Australia. And again, super covering by Naas Botha. I think the ball just running over the dead ball line. My goodness, there wasn't much in it.
Back in the action, and a kick going the way of Australia.
At this stage, Notting allowing themselves to get back into the game, breaking it up. And the Australians certainly been punishing them with distance. Although now an indication of how strong the wind is over there. Liner having a go for poles. And it really is extraordinary. Looking up at the flags and the grandstands, the top of the grandstands, you can't see them from that shot. They are blowing in different directions right away around the ground.
And that's Michael Liner's kicking record this afternoon. Certainly not the best, but conditions haven't been the best. This is a fairly long one in these muddy underfoot conditions.
And a very important kick, of course. Should he get it, Australia will be at least 2 scores ahead of South Africa.
And the wind seems to drop a little bit as Liner goes in. Is it going to have the legs? No, it's not. Nor the direction. And Naas Botha just slows it down, dots down for the 22. High hanging drop from Naas Botha and taken on by Uli Schmidt to Jannie Breert. And there's the ball made available. Out it comes to Naas Botha. Kick with the left boot, charge down. Robert Dupree tidies up for South Africa. Second time this afternoon that we've seen a kick from Naas Botha charge down. And Jannie Breert is limping as he goes into that maul.
Well, as so often, inspirational stuff by Uli Schmidt. Catching that kick through, leading the charge, but Jannie Breert has damaged himself. He pulled up very sharply indeed. And this was the kick, and just look at Uli Schmidt here. Far Jones can't stop him. Breert goes down heavily. I think that's where he damaged himself. And well, was Robert Dupree, was that ball interfered with? A big laugh gone out. What did he say? The spectators from New Zealand stopped throwing oranges.
Stops throwing oranges at the Wallabies. Well, I suppose that might put the crowd in its place and prevent those odd individuals from throwing oranges and archies onto the field. And is Gavin going to pick it up again this time, or is he going to release it to Far Jones? Just time Far Jones gets it out to Liner. The long pass, skipping out the centres. But a good crunching tackle by South African defence. And South Africa getting the penalty.
Well, again, a thumping tackle from Peter Muller, but one wonders, could the referee have played advantage? South Africa winning the ball with an overlap, and he seemed to blow them up quite quickly. And a really vital kick for Botha here. And although territorially the Australians have dominated in the second half, and to large extent the first half, only 8 points to 3. Now, while Botha's lining up the kick, Peter Muller receiving more treatment down by the tunnel.
Last Botha keeping it low but not striking it well. And Michael Liner gathering behind his line and dotting it down. That's Peter Muller, who had a bit of treatment whilst Botha took the kick. And Marty Roebuck with the dropout. Muller straight back into the action and taking it and running directly at the Australians, getting into Robert Dupree. That's the high hoisted one from Robert Dupree. Marty Roebuck, Ronnie Gerber tapping it back, picked up by Ollie Schmidt, and the referee's whistle is gone.
Well, the crowd booing, but clearly went forward. But look at the way Dani Gerber chased after that ball. Robert Dupree lofting the high one, and suddenly South Africa have their tails up again. It's 8 points to 3, 24 minutes to go.
Far Jones back to Liner on his line, and he gets the kick in as he's challenged. And James Small thinks of the quick one, but Willie O very quickly up. And Michael Liner still down. He took a nasty knock as he kicked that ball, and now he's been helped up by Marty Roebuck.
And there is Heinrich Fulls warming up. And in fact, Drickus Hatting also has his tracksuit off, although Jannie Breert seems to be moving with much more ease. And of course, Liner got injured and went off against Northern Transvaal, and that certainly broke up the play of the Australians. Paul Carl is on the bench for Australia. And there certainly has been a war of attrition today. A very clean game. And here is the kick. Let's see what happened. Well, Robert Dupree continuing through, but so much commitment to block the ball. Given the benefit of the doubt.
Just been hit right on it.
And Michael Liner, having received attention, doesn't look all that happy, but certainly staying on the field. Willie Schmidt out of Milan taps it down. McKenzie trying to take it through for Australia.
And that'll be a scrum to South Africa. And this game is all about possession in the wet. South Africa just haven't seen too much of the ball in this half, and therefore haven't been able to allow their halfbacks to dictate.
There's your mark. Tighter.
David Bishop just making sure they go down on the mark. And so that's been pushed back as Robert Dupree waits for the ball. Nick Far Jones there to try and pick it up the moment it comes out. Jannie Breert trying to give protection. He picks it up. Robert Dupree kicking down the touchline. Marty Roebuck outside his 22. Challenged by Small. Gets the kick in. Last Botha back to collect it. Back to his fullback. Good rolling kick from Theo van Rensburg.
And very good play by Botha and Van Rensburg. The crowd were booing. They thought maybe 8 points to 3 down, South Africa should start moving the ball. But there's 21 minutes in it. There's only 5 points in the game. And Naas Botha deciding no risks at this stage. Sensible decision, and puts his side back on the attack.
Kearns. Far Jones picking up. Liner challenged by McDonald. Passes to Horan. He gets the kick in. James Small is there to pick it up. Up to the 10-metre line. The kick ahead from James Small. Nick Far Jones underneath it. Quick kick and back to Marty Roebuck.
And certainly Roebuck has had a good game. Not a spectacular player. A lot of people thought he was maybe one of the weaker players in the World Cup side, but hasn't really put a foot wrong. And on a day like today, that's just what Australia need at the back. A good goalkeeper. And he certainly line kicked very well indeed. And Uli Schmidt penalised for a dummy throw, a double the throw. And you can see on the left there, his head is down. He doesn't agree. And once again, South Africa given possession away.
Bar Jones taking the tap kick, playing it back into the forwards. Bar Jones will want it back. And gets it back to David Wilson, coming the blind side. Schmidt in the thick of things again. Bar Jones gets it out to Michael Liner. The high one from Michael Liner. Theo van Rensburg just inside his 22. And given the mark, a quick kick back to Dani Gerber.
And there's a classic example. Gerber so keen to get into it, not displaying the same cool head that Naas Bertha showed a minute ago. 19 minutes to go. Should have settled things down and kicked a long touch. As it is, Australia still very much on the attack.
McCall can't tap it. South Africa can. Robert de Pre back to Naas Bertha, deciding to open up. Peter Miller to Dani Gerber up to the 22. The kick over the top by Gerber. And Gerber trying to boot on as he's challenged by Horan. And Gerber didn't like that, nor did the crowd.
Well, you can see Dani Gerber very annoyed. He thought he was interfered with after that chip ahead. The referee said no very clearly. And you can see Gerber climbing in there. He's on to take on anybody. But really, South Africa having the overlap, drifting across the field and not being able to put a man away. And Naas Bertha looks like he's angrily having words with Gerber, saying, get the ball down there.
Robert de Pre receiving the ball from Jannie Breert.
And that's a late tackle by Michael Liner. Robert de Pre hit hard, shouldered hard after he kicked the ball. And so ill discipline creeping into the Australian ranks as well. Oh, and there you are, clearly Michael Liner taking de Pre out. Once again, kicking a little bit of a lottery, although it looks like Naas has got a bit of decent turf out of which to kick.
And Naas Bertha in an attempt to reduce the deficit to 2 points. And again, it's going to be wide to the left. Campese deciding to open up from inside his own goal area. And look at the beautiful running of David Campese, releasing the ball to the burly Mackenzie, taking it on. Bar Jones gets it back. And now they're going to open it up. Willie O on the rampage. Out comes to Tim Gavin. Good tackle by Johan Steiger coming across. Bar Jones getting it back again to Campese. Trying to be booted on by Horan as he's tackled by Dani Gerber. Peter Muller, rather.
Well, just one moment of magic by Campese, and the key thing was at each stage the Australians retained possession and put men away. Now I think it's Audrey Geldenhuys, looks like he's receiving treatment. He's leaving the field. And that's Audrey Geldenhuys off, and that looks like well, maybe a nose, and that's going to give Drickus Hutting, I think, his first cap.
He's certainly anxious, desperately anxious to get onto the field, is Drickus Hutting. But Audrey Geldenhuys having treatment at the moment, and now they're saying that he's going off as the scrum goes down, and goes down very much if you look at it from this angle.
Well, there's a lovely moment for Northern Transvaal's Drickus Hutting, and who would have believed at the beginning of the season that he would win a South African cap? Former junior Springbok athlete who was banned in rather controversial circumstances.
Peter Miller staying on his feet. And there you can see the clean shorts of Dricus Hutton. Robert Dupree getting it back to Nice Porter. And Nice with the left boot, kicking across field. Campese going back for it. Inside his 22 as he kicks for touch. And Van Rensburg with the quick one.
And the sky above getting very, very dark again, and I think we're going to have another rain or hailstorm before this game is over. 15 minutes to go. Remember, 8 points to 3. Anything can happen. Dricus Hutton had a marvellous game for Northern Transvaal. In fact, I think it was the junior South African side against the All Blacks, taking lots of ball in the middle, but of course jumping at the front today.
Neil's getting it back to Far Jones. Liner to Horan. Briet in there with the tackle. Far Jones gets it again. Driving play by Australia. Once again they get it back. Marty Roebuck joining out. The long pass out to Dave Campese. The chip ahead from Campese in the chase. And Campese can't get there. Falls in the process. South Africa dropped down for the 22.
And once again, super rugby from Australia.
Quick one by Nice Porter, and Donnie Faber can't pick it up. Lane advantage is the referee. Willie O over the 22 when he goes down. Far Jones gets it back again. Good on the blind side. Good tackle by James Small. Kenzie taking it on. Far Jones again to Horan. Chip over the top. Back Willie Schmidt. Good play from Willie Schmidt. Across to Peter Hendricks, and he opens up. Good tackle by Carozza coming across from the left wing.
Well, away down on the left, James Small has taken a heavy knock. He's receiving treatment. But super play by the Australians, retaining possession and running the ball. 3 or 4 movements they used and each time retained possession. Mind you, Uli Schmidt once again caught the final kick and almost put Peter Hendricks away. And that's really the first run we've seen from him in both test matches. Well, he really had a go at Campese. But the end result is another important penalty to Australia. 8 points to 3, 13 minutes to go. And once again, should they kick it, it'll put them more than 2 scores ahead. The referee, I think there's been a bit of dirty play, and it looks like Dricus Hutton is the man. Well, that was linesman Lindsay McLaughlin pointed out that Dricus Hutton had been up to something. The penalty from this side of the field will favour Liner.
Dricus Hutton, no doubt, a little bit over-anxious, a little bit over-exuberant to prove himself for the first opportunity that he's had to come out on the field for South Africa. And the penalty being awarded to Australia in the more favourable position. Michael Liner, who'd indicated that he was going to go for pass from the other side. Obviously deciding the same from this, the more favourable side. It's a much better kick from Michael Liner. That's right through the middle, and so Australia now stretch their lead.
Well, that could be a vital kick, as I say, and now it's perhaps time for South Africa to throw caution to the wind. Of course, the problem is they've got to get that possession. I'm going to try and fight my way down there, Simon, and maybe have some words with people after the game.
Well, I hope we can make your way down there, John. And once again, mistakes creeping into play. Nice Porter not finding the 10-metre line with that dropout. And so the players call back to scrum down on the halfway line. It's the muddy back of Nick Farr-Jones. Tackle by Robert Dupree. Tim Gavin going in to help his skipper. Eventually coming back. And to Horan. Little can't take the pass. Picked up by Carrozza. He boots it downfield as the rain comes down. Van Rensburg taking it outside his 22. And underneath it is Michael Liner. He's got room to move because the players had to wait. They're all offside. But Liner directly into touch. And there you see, 30 minutes have gone. Just 10 minutes remain. And Australia with that 8-point lead, 11 points to 3. They are ahead of South Africa. South Africa now calling for a 4-man line out. Towards the back, Breer taps it down to Driekers Hatting. Now McDonald going in there to try and get the ball back, which he does, but after the whistle had gone. Breer picking it up and getting to Robert Dupree. Dupree kicking for the grandstand touchline and finding his touch. And none of the crowd leaving the Newlands Stadium. And South Africa will have to score at least twice to pull this one off. And only about 9 minutes left. Kearns obviously in no rush to throw this one in at the line out. Tapped down. Farr-Jones can't take it. Difficult one. Knock on, and Australia will have the put in. Farr-Jones getting it back to Liner. He's forced to kick with the left boot. Robert Dupree again up very quickly onto the Australian fly half. And again South Africa, that shorter line out. Adolf Malone there, Jannie Breed at the back, and Breed gets it to Robert Dupree. Long pass to Nice Porter, to Val Bartman, the human battering ram. Back it comes to South Africa, Jannie Breed looking for a way through. Gets it to James Small, but he is upended. South Africa controlling it well. Ollie Schmidt tackled by John Eales. But the referee ruling that one won't come out, and so Australia have the put in. Good play by South Africa as the rain really starts pelting down. Farr-Jones, the quick heel, but held at the back. And Australia making a few metres before they release the ball. Liner being forced across as he's challenged by Peter Miller and getting the kick in. Theo van Rensburg waiting for it to bounce and then taking it. Chip ahead. Liner picks it up, and Tim Horan in fact dashing his way through the middle. A little chip over the top. Donnie Gerber comes across to try and stop him. And Gerber eventually picks up the ball as he's tackled by Horan. In the wake of Australia, Campese goes over. David Campese on hand. And what a glorious moment that is. Look at the smile on his face. The 50th try that he's scored for Australia in his 69 tests. And the break coming from Timmy Horan. Donnie Gerber picking up the ball, unable to find his touch, being tackled by Horan. And Nathan Little in there to try and help them. And all of a sudden the ball popping out. David Campese on hand, and all he had to do was catch it. Theo van Rensburg nowhere near enough to stop him. Then we see that tackle by Horan after he'd made the initial break and then booted ahead. Donnie Gerber back to tidy up, but Horan getting the tackle, Horan getting the ball away, and Campese scoring the try. David Campese, who in fact has played every single game on the tour. He was one of the original selections for both the Western Transvaal game and the Northern Transvaal game when he scored a couple of tries. And then he came on as a replacement against Eastern Province after Darren Juni left the field just into the second half. He scored a try and fell heavily, and Dave Campese came onto the field. And today, of course, playing on the right wing for Australia in that number 11 jersey as we watch Liner. And once again, he's not going to succeed. And Campese going over for the try, the second try of the afternoon, and Australia stretching that lead, and a pretty unassailable lead now, I would say, with just 5 minutes to go. 16 points to 3. They lead South Africa as Naasbuurter drops out. Rod McCall taps back, taken on by Phil Kearns. Nick Farr-Jones with the high testing kick for Peter Hendricks, and Campese going at full born, trying to catch it on the run. Hendricks on the counter attack and then losing the ball. You can see the umbrellas being folded away on the far side as that shower comes to an end. Ball tapping down Farr-Jones, the long pass taken by Horan, once again jinking his way through. And Australia want it. Liner with the kick ahead. Theo van Rensburg chasing it. And letting the ball go into touch for a throw-in for South Africa. But once again, Australia right back on the attack, just a few metres from the South African try line. And certainly it has been all Australia in the last few minutes. Willie Schmidt, because Hutting going up. With the whistle gone already. Farr-Jones waiting for it, and picked up by the loose forwards and driven on. Ewan McKenzie burrowing in there. I think he's got the ball under his arm. He's going to be pushed over the line, just short of the line. And the penalty to Australia. Putting the man down. There you can see the line outs. South Africa just 9 clean wins between the 12 by Australia. As we see Michael Liner there going for posts. And the free kicks, Australia shading that 2-1. And also more penalties to Australia. And one of the penalties being used at the moment by Michael Liner to see whether he can put over the penalty. Just a couple of minutes remaining. And Australia a commanding lead, 16 points to 3. 2 tries, one scored by either wing. Rosa the first, Campese the second. Liner with the kick, and that looks a good one from Michael Liner. Yes, he's made no mistake at all. And a further 3 points go the way of Australia. Up the score goes to 19 to the 3 of South Africa. Michael Liner, who hasn't really had his kicking boots on this afternoon, making that one look so easy from close to the touchline. Naasbuurter again isn't going to find his 10 metres. And South Africa caught a little bit napping here as Eels boots ahead. And Theo van Rensburg eventually coming to save the day and booting it back downfield. Campese has it. Chip ahead from Dave Campese, picked up by James Small coming across. And he finds Peter Hendricks in support. Picked up by Val Bartman for South Africa. Assistance from Jannie Breert. Now the whole South African pack driving in. Robert Dupree gets it back. Naasbuurter to the long pass out to James Small. He had Donny Kerber on his outside, but I think he was slightly forward of Small. Australia get it back. And back it comes to Carozza. The chip ahead by Paul Carozza, and he'll boot it over the line if he's got any luck, and he can dive over and score. He's given the try, Paul Carozza. And Peter Miller disgusted, Paul Carrozza delighted. He's gone over for his second try of the afternoon, the third one for Australia. Brilliant individual play by Carrozza, receives the ball, kicks it ahead, and the chase taken up by Robert Dupree and Carrozza. He gets there first, boots it ahead, and the ball just short of the line as he dives, and his momentum takes him over with Peter Miller on his back. Carrozza getting a second round of applause. And Australia really running away with it at the moment. Their lead up until about 12 minutes ago was 8 points to 3. But all of a sudden Liner succeeded with a couple of penalties. Campisi went over for a try. Carrozza's gone over for his second try. And Liner now with the opportunity to convert the Carrozza try, and certainly all of a sudden his kicking form has come back as the referee blows the final whistle as Michael Liner converts the try. And so Australia have beaten South Africa 26 points to 3, and really piling on the pressure at the end. So Australia scoring the tries, Carrozza the first one, Campisi scoring the second, his 50th one in international rugby, and Carrozza going over just before the end. Liner converting one of those tries, adding 3 penalties, and for South Africa they saw 3 sparkling tries by the Australians, and walking across the muddy field now, certainly very muddy in places, and Australia having that 8 points to 3 lead at half time. Only in the 28th minute of the second half could they stretch it and go further ahead. And then towards the end, going over for those 2 lovely tries, David Campisi on hand to take the ball from Tim Horan, and then right at the end, Paul Carrozza booting the ball ahead, outstripping the defence, and going over for his second try of the afternoon. And Michael Liner converting that. He missed the conversions of both Paul Carrozza's first try and the try scored by David Campisi, and converted one, put over 3 penalties. And for South Africa, Nasport putting over a solitary penalty in the first half. And so Campisi scoring his 50th test try here at Newlands in his 70th match. And there's Nasport going to congratulate the opposition as we cross over to John Robbie.
Hello, Barry. It's total chaos down here in the dressing room. Nasport has just come in. As you can see, the world and his wife is in here at the moment. And I think Nasport graciously has come through, and just a congratulation with John Williams, the Australian side. We're hoping to get a word with Nick Farr-Jones any minute. I can see him engulfed in pressmen, and I think they're getting him over here now. Yeah, just coming over here. And I think Nick Farr-Jones is coming. There's all sorts of things happening in here. Could someone get hold of Nick Farr-Jones? Nick, can you give us a word?
Yeah, what do you want to know?
Well, first of all, how do you feel? Daft question. You've just beaten South Africa, what, I think 26 points to 3. How do you feel?
Yeah, fantastic. We've really been wanting to get it right for a long while, and we did all right against New Zealand. We're delighted to win the Bledisloe Cup, but I think that 80 minutes, especially in tough conditions, we proved that we are the best, and it is a real relief yet again. To come on a tour of South Africa, play 4 hard games, come away with 4 wins, culminating in that result is just great.
What were your tactics, looking at the weather, knowing South Africa would be fired up after their good second half performance against the All Blacks?
We figured that if we got it right, like we did in the semi-final of the World Cup last year, if we had all the enthusiasm and the urgency, that South Africa wouldn't know it hit them. I'm not saying New Zealand didn't play well, because they played very well, but we, at times, when we get it right, we can really play with urgency, enthusiasm. That's what we try to do. I think we shell-shocked South Africa early, but we did run into a slight breeze when we got to 8-3, turning at half-time. All we had to do was cut down the Razzle-Taz play. You know, we threw a lot of bad passes, a lot of risky passes, just play percentage rugby, and we had a good chance.
Talk us to the tries. Do you remember them? You seemed to set people running, punching and ball back quickly, moving it wide. Was that a tactic?
Well, it was. We've practiced that all year, that if we can get quick ruck ball, feeding forwards, running both directions, and Jason Little, Timmy Horan, Marty Roebuck, they also ran off well from the base of rucks and mauls, going in both directions, and I think that caught South Africa a bit out. You know, when we go one way to the right, bring it back quickly to the left, and they seemed a bit short on numbers. First try was a good one. Phil Kearns took it round off the back of a maul round to the left, passed it to me. Mike Liner really made it with the ball round the back to Paul Carosa, and even including David Campese, I don't think there's a better finisher in the game at the moment than Paul Carosa. Not many wingers could have finished that first one, and the last try was just fantastic. The second try, Tim Horan's try, got through, wonderful chip, put pressure on. I think it was Tim who threw the pass to Campo as well.
It was brilliant. If you had, now I know you're a diplomat and you're not going to criticise, but if you had some advice for South Africa, they're just back in World Rugby, they're going to go on a very difficult tour now, France and England, what would your advice be, your friendly advice to them?
Well, I don't know if I'd advise them. I'd just say, look, keep your heads up, because it's going to take some time. This team's been together largely since '89, and it was really only last year that we started to get it right. Really starting with a victory over New Zealand in Wellington in 1990. It takes a couple of years. South Africa have been together for 2 domestic tests. I really don't think they'll be hitting their best form maybe for 2 or 3 years. But we of Australia strongly encourage the unification process. We would like to see, for the World Cup in '95, that you don't have some of the problems that we've had on this tour.
Did that affect you at all, the row after last week, the pressure, the political pressure on you this week?
No, it didn't affect us because it happened early in the week. It was Monday that we thought there might have been problems when the ANC met, but it seemed that fairly early in the week that the ANC had agreed to approve the tour, or continue to approve it, and we really focused in hard from that time. So, we had 4 days when to prepare, and it reminded me of the week leading into the semi-final last year against New Zealand, when we did it all right. The boys were on a hot tin roof. We prepared with urgency and enthusiasm, and it showed out there today.
Final question. You said if you lost today, you might be keen to play on. What about Nick Farr-Jones? Are you going to play again for Australia?
Look, there's always the option if Pete Slattery gets injured next year, and we don't have a solid backup. We've got plenty of good halfbacks back in Australia. I might throw the hand up, but I'm really happy with what I've been able to achieve, and I'm privileged to have been able to play for Australia for so long. The thing that I'll miss, maybe not the playing, because as you get older, it's harder to play. But I'll miss the camaraderie, the fellowship within this team. It is just fantastic, and I'm glad I got out at this note if I get out.
Well, congratulations, and thanks for all the magic moments, Nick Farr-Jones.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, what we'll do now is we will cross back to our commentators up in the grandstand.
Well, the Australian captain, Nick Farr-Jones, and what a success he has been. Led Australia to the World Cup last year when Australia beat England at Twickenham, led Australia to the Bledisloe Cup victory against New Zealand, and today here he goes, passing the ball out. This is the first try that Australia has scored. Farr-Jones again, out to Liner, and there comes Carosa. Robert Dupree can't stop him, and Carosa, burly man, he's a very strong runner, and from that distance no one was going to stop him. Willie Schmidt going in the tackle on Phil Kearns, and Liner timing his pass beautifully, and Paul Carosa handing off Robert Dupree, and then diving, and over he goes for the first try of the match. From a different angle, Liner challenged by James Small, and managing to get the ball past him, and Robert Dupree trying to pull Paul Carosa back, and Steiger going across and also trying to get the tackle. And this is the one that Tim Horan really made, the chip over the top, and then the kick ahead. Donnie Gerber trying to stop, but I think before we watch that, we'll just go back to John Robbie. I'm just watching Campo before we go back to John Robbie, and that's the try that Campese scored. So down to John Robbie.
Okay, we're down again in the bowels of the grandstand. I have the losing captain, Naas Botha. Naas, Nick Farr-Jones said his advice to South Africa was not to be downhearted. It took them a while to get it right. What do you think about that?
John, I must say, I think Australia proved today that while they're the world champions, they really played well, and the conditions made it very tough for us because we wanted to spin the ball, but in these conditions you just couldn't. You couldn't find your footing, and it was very difficult conditions for us. But on the other hand, they played so well that they made it very difficult for us.
What were your match tactics going into the game?
What we tried to do is, we tried to keep it close, and then if the chance is there to play it wide, but. The thing is going forward, and then we struggled to get a quick ball out, and then we couldn't get it out to the wings, and that's where our strong points are, and we just couldn't do it.
Have you learnt any specific lessons from them? They seem to do everything so well, cut down mistakes in that second half. It really was copybook stuff.
Oh, for sure, and I think that's coming from experience, and I think today they proved that you can never buy experience, and that's one thing that we've learned today is that we need experience. We need to get the ball out quickly, and we just need to adapt to conditions.
You need a tour.
We need a tour desperately, and we should have had one already, but. We're not going to lie down now. It's just back to the drawing board and get stuck into it.
What's the mood like in the dressing room? Are the team genuinely disappointed, or are they looking positively at the future?
No, I think they're looking positively at the future. But the only thing I think we all wanted to do well, especially after last Saturday. But if it's getting tough, the only thing you can do is to keep your head up.
The referee, you were very critical of the referee last week. There seemed to be certain misunderstandings. Today it seemed a lot better, was it?
Yeah, I think, it was totally different today. We had, to put it nicely, we had a nice guy on the field, and he made it so easy for us to play, and we never even had to go to him and ask him why. Why is the decision? It was so clear why he made the decisions, and it was just a joy to play under him.
I asked Nick Farr-Jones about his future. He was a little bit cagey. What about Naas Botha?
No, I'm very cagey now. In the next 24 hours, I'll let you know.
Okay, Naas, thanks for talking to us and keep the head up.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay.
Okay, let's get back to our commentators up in the grandstand.